Hi, I'm Clarissa, the moderator of this panel. I'm going to start with a visual description of myself. I'm a small ethnic Chinese woman with my hair cut very short. I have on black framed glasses and I'm wearing a black dress. So this panel is about what access looks like from the perspectives of professional artists who are driving change in this area in their respective communities. So I'm very pleased and honored to be introducing to you 3 speakers, all from different parts of Asia, who are working hard to reframe notions of accessibility and to bridge the worlds of persons with and without disabilities. So, starting with the introductions, the speaker seated furthest away from me on the extreme left of this panel, in the bright orange jacket, is multidisciplinary artist Alice Hu. She is founder of Shanghai's Accessivation studio, which develops innovative, inclusive, and accessible projects that bring together deaf and hearing communities. The next speaker, seated in the middle of this panel, is artist Sukri Budi Dharma, better known as Butong. He's founder and chairman of Jogja Disability Arts, which has forged collaborations among more than 100 disability artists in Indonesia across different disciplines. And he's here with his translator, Rani. And the final speaker, seated next to me, is Singapore actor and artist-educator Claire Teo. She teaches across mainstream and special needs communities in organizations such as Artist-Educator and LaSalle College of the Arts. And she is dedicated to empowering marginalized communities and in socially different and to produce socially driven work. Let's give a warm welcome to all our speakers. And without further ado, I'll let Alice start us off with her presentation, which is a comparative look at disability arts and disability cultures in the West and Asia, with particular emphasis on China, where she's from, and the opportunities and challenges to be found in cross-cultural collaboration. Over to you, Alice.
Hi everyone, my name is Alice. So I'll be standing to share because this is where I will make you full use of the spaces, where I can be fully grounded as well. So my name is Alice. So this is my sign name for Alice. Nice to meet all of you. All right? And this is how we do applause for deaf community. So for us to know that you're applauding, this is how we'll wave our hands in the air. So a little bit about introduction about myself. So I'm from Shanghai, China. And what I'm using right now is international sign. So I have 2 interpreters. I have 1 international sign interpreter and who will interpret from international sign to Singapore Sign Language. And also I have another one hearing interpreter that interpret from sign language to voice interpreting. So I know a few languages. I know English, I know Mandarin, I speak German for other different languages as well. So I study in Vietnam, in arts in Austria. So while I have been working, I am a multidisciplinary artist. I'm also a creative director. I have also worked for over decades in theater and film. So for 3 years, I worked overseas for 3 years, and then I went back to Shanghai, and then I started my studio, Accessivation studio. My objective for my company is to lead and to have a group, to have a different projects, and mainly we have 4 pillars. One is accessibility arts, consultation for accessibility. The third one is sign language. And they also have the talent of grooming the talents. So now we are on this topic on accessible utopia. So what is it? So it's not a perfect utopia, but it's still a rather evolving artistic ecosystem that's open to every one of us here. So if you're the artist, you'll also be involved in this system that we're going to evolve change. So be it for the deaf, like for example, we have the deaf artists, the deaf dancers, the deaf filmmakers. We have so many different areas that we are still having to develop all of them. So there are different areas that we can look for collaborations. So what does accessibility means then? So you can see on the slide, you can see this picture. So it also means that there is no boundaries. It has to be accessible, it's easily used, it should be easily understandable. And in terms of the language that is easily be understood by so many people, we don't need to have very complex and beautiful languages. Number 4, there is also without the need of assistance, that everything is very independent. Number 5 is also on the friendly attitude that we have. And lastly, 6 is also about safety, equity, and also inclusivity. So this is to create an environment for everyone to be safe in. So I'll be focusing on the deaf-friendly accessible theatre. So for example, we have the captions. So where the actors on stage, they speak, they have dialogues, and will be all captioned. So this is fit exactly of what they're speaking on stage. And then what are the roles that they have? So different roles that it will also be clear on the subtitles, and that they will be able to know and follow which characters are speaking. And this also be clear to them. And of course, this accessibility will go in tandem with the performance, right? And the subtitles should be clear and legible for all the audiences. So it should be clear. And together with the sound, like for example, to audio describe, that you can be able to see like there are wind blowing, etc. So this is an example of where the sitting of the deaf audience. You can see the red boxes. The red boxes are suggestion of where the interpreters can be stand. It can be stand at the side of the stage or off stage. And the yellow boxes are the places where the audience, the deaf audience, can sit so that they can have the full view of the stage of the performance and also the interpreters. And what's important is the importance of the accessible communication for deaf people. So number 1, we must remember they are very similar for the do and don'ts. Okay? So what do we do? So there has to be visual cues, like the subtitles or the image guides that has to be clear for them to see. So that people, when they meet, they're able to see all these visual cues. They will be very deaf-friendly for communication. Written communication. So if there is an absence of interpreters, they can always using the text function or to use paper and pen for communication. So they are able to communicate on their needs, on their preferences. And they can also, and deaf people are also very, very good at gestures, and so are every one of us here. We're able to gestures. Using gestures actually makes communication very fun. And then lastly, for what not to do, is that don't ignore deaf people just because that they don't speak the same language, you ignore them. No, please do not do that. You have to respect deaf people. So if you look at them, they are deaf. Do I have to shout or speak louder into their ears? No, we are deaf. So we actually are very good with our eyes, so you can speak in your natural cadence for that. And also for the deaf people, please do not pity them, do not sympathize. We don't really need a lot of help, but rather we can do a lot of things except hearing. So we are very talented, we are very skilled as well with like anybody else. So if there are interpreters, also when interpreters are around, do not just look at the interpreters, but rather face and focus on the deaf person. Because the interpreters are there to facilitate communication. You are not having any conversation with the interpreters, so you should focus your attention on the deaf person. And as the deaf people, they are signing using the sign language. So when you see them having a conversation, do not interrupt or try to stand in between, or you actually walk past in between them. So this is actually be blocking and interrupt their conversation. So this is my experience of the Western culture and also the Asian culture as well. So what's the difference? So for the Western deaf art, the theater is very, very accessible. They're very well developed. So they have the visual, sign language, and sign language poetry. They also have the sustainable art. And they also have the deaf identity. And the deaf culture is very strong in their artwork. As compared to the Eastern art culture, in the East, do you see any deaf artists? Not much, but you usually see the non-disabled artists. They're mostly hearing. And they're also looking at exploring the non-hearing-led theatre, dance, and sign language music, and also the fusion of the traditional culture with the contemporary art. So it is also still on the social acceptance and the policy support that still need a lot of improvement for the deaf art, and is still in work in progress. So this is like what I said, between the West and the East. So the West is really focuses a lot of deaf gain. So deaf gain means that they advocate for the deaf-led artistic expression and also the independent creative leadership. So if you to look at, but compared to the East side is really more of having through the lens of sympathy, through the lens of looking at how do we include the deaf artists. But rather we want to look at how do we then want to support them and still want to define their own identity. So these are the two different comparisons. So now I'll show you the West and the East, how the arts differences are. So let's take a look at this video. So let's see the video. Thank you. So this is one of the biggest project called the Night Bloom, where they have a big projection that is being projected on the tall buildings, and then the weather, how the lightings change, and the full projection of the artists. So we wanted to show, and we want to have a bigger projection, and that's how the projection is done on the buildings. So this is just my team working on the Night Bloom. So this is my team. There's only 2 hearing persons. So we still want to work together with the hearing because of the music collaboration. But most of it is deaf-led. And there's a collaboration to have to show the deaf arts. So it's also to show the exchange, the different perspective of how arts can actually do the bridge between the hearing and the deaf. So this is the history of the Night Bloom. It started in UK. So what's the opportunity here that we need to think about in the future? So it's also the making of the videos, the film, the theatre, the arts. These are all opportunities. And it's actually very exciting and also interesting challenges for all of us to take on. And there's also actually to think about how exciting and beautiful the cultures are in this art setting. So what will be the theme of it? The theme is to aim for the exchange and collaboration between the East and the West in the field of disability, especially in the arts, and also to include in the accessibility how we can make arts to be accessible. So diverse as we are, so here we are coming together in this forum. So I hope that the disabled art, I think the word can actually be next time is not just disabled arts, but rather diverse arts. And we shouldn't be looking at disability and focus on that, but because all of us here, we do have our ability to perform and to use arts. So diverse as we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I'd like to say a big thank you to Alice. I think just from that short sharing alone, it really illuminates the range of possibilities and how we can bridge the worlds of persons with and without disabilities across art forms, across cultures. And if you have questions for Alice for her presentation, you can start keying in your questions onto the Mentimeter. So you can use your mobile phone to scan the QR code at the back of your name tag. No, at the front of your name tag, rather. Yeah. So thanks, Alice, for that. And next, I would like to invite Budong to share the access challenges for disability artists in Indonesia. Budong also has a lot of experience working with cross-cultural work and, of course, working with a wide range of artists across disciplines in Indonesia. And he'll be talking about the foundational work of the Jogja disability arts in collaborative art projects as well as path-breaking research. So I hand the time over to Budong. Thank you.
Thank you. Cek satu. Selamat siang untuk semuanya. Perkenalkan, nama saya Butong. Saya menggunakan tongkat sebagai alat bantu dan saya menggunakan batik dari Indonesia.
Hello everyone, my name is Butong. Hello everyone, my name is Butong. At the moment, I'm wearing a red batik, Indonesian traditional fabric, and also I have a walking cane on my hands.
Ya. Saya adalah ketua dari Jogja Disability Art dan terima kasih sebelumnya atas kehadiran saya di sini di ADF ini aneh. Dan saya sebenarnya ingin berbagi pengalaman tentang refleksi saya sebagai seorang disabilitas, bagaimana mengenai aksesibilitas yang ada saat ini.
I am the chairperson of Jogja Disability Arts, and thank you ADF for the opportunity to speak on the stage. Today I would like to share my experience and reflection as artist with disability and what accessibility means to me.
Ya, slide berikutnya. Mungkin ini adalah aktivitas saya di rumah. Ini saya sedang melukis dan di settingnya mungkin memang berantakan. Namun di sini saya ingin bercerita ada beberapa kenapa saya memasang foto ini. Ini adalah keseharian saya dan aktivitas keseharian saya itu dibangun dari hal-hal yang sederhana dan kegiatan seperti melukis. Dan bicara aksesibilitas itu tak lepas dari aspek membangun pengalaman keseharian saya. Dan berikutnya.
So this is the photo of me at home. You can see there's my painting over there. There's a towel drying rack on the back. So it's quite messy, but this is the setting of my daily life. Why did I put up this photo? Because I think when we talk about accessibility, for me, it's really connected to all aspect that experience, that shape the daily experience of my life. And this is what I want to elaborate further on.
Ya, saya bersama rekan saya, salah satunya adalah Bapak Nano Warsono. Dia seorang seniman dari Yogyakarta. Kita juga mendirikan Jogja Disability Art pada tahun 2020. Dan saat ini JDA sudah berjalan lebih dari 150 seniman dari Indonesia yang sudah bergabung, termasuk komunitas dan sistem pendukung kami. Kami juga berlokasi di Yogyakarta, di Indonesia.
So I, along with my colleague Nano Warsono, a visual artist, founded Jogja Disability Arts in 2020. Currently, JDA is working with more than 100 disability artists, including grassroots communities and their support system. We are located in Yogyakarta. You can see on the map.
Ya, kami juga telah menginisiasi satu pameran Jogja International Disability Art Biennale dan Sulu Sumurut Art Festival yang lebih pada ke nasional, dan itu adalah menjadi pemberian ruang bagi teman-teman disabilitas untuk mempresentasikan karyanya.
And so far we have initiated Jogja International Disability Arts Biennale and Sulu Sumurut Festival. Both are like the participatory spaces for disability artists from national Indonesia and also internationally.
Ya, namun sebelum bicara lebih jauh tentang JDA, saya ingin berbagi tentang pembelajaran yang saya dapat dalam proses yang cukup panjang. Hampir 10 tahun saya menjadi koordinator di salah satu komunitas. Permasalahan atau apapun itu banyak saya dapatkan, dan proses ini cukup panjang yang membantu saya untuk memahami tentang saya dan teman-teman, begitupun tentang aksesibilitas.
But before I go further into talking about GDA, I want to share a lesson learned that I learned from being a coordinator of a community called DIFCOM, or Disability Community and Friends. For 10 years, I work with this community. And from there, I really learned a lot about what are the challenges and what are the causes of those challenges.
Tantangan tentang aksesibilitas itu sendiri adalah, yang pertama adalah ketidaktahuan tentang hambatan. Itu sering terjadi. Dan adalah karena infrastruktur kesenian yang tidak sangat mendukung dan dibangun dari sudut pandang aksesibilitas dari kacamata seniman disabilitas dan pengalaman kesehariannya.
So the first challenge is that we are later to realize that the barriers that we experience exist because of the art infrastructure that has not been built with the perspective of accessibility from the eyes of the disability artists and our daily experiences.
Akhirnya kami mengalami beberapa hambatan seperti yang ada di dalam slide ini.
So this is some of the barriers that we experience. As you can see on the slides, we have gap in our knowledge, capacity. The approach is not disability friendly. Also regarding to people's attitude about what we're doing, information, no equal opportunities or very little, and also some of us has to live in isolation.
Ya, tantangan lain adalah keberadaan kami yang terbatas secara ruang gerak untuk terhubung dengan resource yang ada. Tentu saja di luar sana ada sumber daya yang mungkin bisa mendukung kami.
And another challenge is about our limited physical space. Therefore, it's very difficult to connect with resources. We believe there are resources out there that can help us, but we just cannot tap into that resources yet.
Yang akhirnya saya membubarkan komunitas ini, namun membentuk baru dan menjadi satu pelajaran baru untuk maju ke depannya melalui dari apa yang kami alami.
So when DIFCOM, the community, eventually disbanded after 10 years, I took that learning, and JDA, Jogja Disability Art, was built based on that learning.
Ya. Dari situ peluang mulai terbuka dan salah satunya adalah kesempatan untuk berkolaborasi dengan seniman-seniman disabilitas dari negara lain atau baik lokal ataupun internasional.
From there, opportunities started to open. One of them was the chance to collaborate in disability arts with artists from local artists or international artists.
Di tahun 2020, JDA atau Jogja Disability Art mendapatkan grant dari program Connection to Culture dari British Council dalam proyek berjudul Netas Incubate. JDA berkolaborasi dengan Disability Art Mural dari UK untuk membuat mural di 2 lokasi, satu di UK dan satu di Indonesia.
So in 2020, JDA received grant from the Connection to Culture program by the British Council for a project titled Netas or Incubate. JDA collaborated with Disability Arts Mural UK to create murals in 2 locations in UK and Indonesia. This is in the post-pandemic context.
Ya, mural ini juga menyuarakan pesan, harapan, dan pengalaman para seniman disabilitas yang terlibat di dalamnya.
So this mural conveys messages of hope and the expression of their experience during the pandemic.
Mungkin ini mural yang ada di slide bisa dilihat sama ini, ya kan? Dan JDA di sini juga belajar bahwa mural dalam kolaborasi seni disabilitas tidak hanya sebatas tentang karya seni. Namun mural sejatinya justru bisa membuat ruang-ruang publik dan kesempatan-kesempatan bagi teman-teman disabilitas untuk bisa hadir di dalam proses tersebut.
So from there we learned that mural in disability art collaboration is not just a piece of art. Murals created in public spaces, they are informal and in line with the street art spirit, it is like a form of resistance. So this is like our own statement to reclaim the spaces for artists who have been excluded.
Ya. Dan ini adalah mural yang kita buat di Wales, kolaborasi lanjutan antara Jogja Disability Art dengan CIC Mural dari komisi dari Unlimited. Ada saya sebagai artis, ada seniman dari UK bernama Andy dan ada juga dari Nano Warsono, dan di gambar tersebut juga kami menggambarkan Gus Dur, presiden keempat dari Indonesia yang mengalami disabilitas, namun ia berpengaruh membangun perlindungan atas keberagaman di Indonesia termasuk pada kaum minoritas dan marginal.
So as you can see on the slide, this is the mural that we created in Wales, one of the murals. This is part of the continued collaboration with JDA and CIC Community Murals, and this project was commissioned by Unlimited UK. So on the mural, it features me, Andy, the disability artist from the UK, Nano Warsono from JDA, and we have Gus Dur, the figure of the 4th President of Indonesia, who is also a disability advocate, and he played a role in promoting protection for diversity, including for minority groups like those people with disabilities.
Dari proses kolaborasi ini, tanpa disadari kami menemukan metode-metode yang mempermudah teman-teman disabilitas untuk bekerja. Dan misalkan seperti saya tidak bisa menggambar di tinggi, namun saya bisa melakukan melalui panel-panel yang akan nanti dipasang ke dinding.
So through this moral collaboration process, we indirectly develop methods that accommodate accessibility needs for the artists. For example, because of my condition, I cannot paint if the canvas is too high. So we use wooden panels for the artists with limited mobility.
Dan kami akan menggali terlebih dahulu ketika dalam proses kolaborasi itu bagaimana menciptakan aksesibilitas berkarya untuk teman-teman disabilitas agar nyaman dan mereka mampu mengerjakan hal tersebut.
And also we always explore about how the artists create their own accessibility at their home, because we believe that this is the best way how to accommodate their needs.
Ya. Selain itu tahun 2024 kami kembali mendapatkan hibah dari Connection to Culture dari British Council untuk sebuah proyek riset bernama Prism. Kami berkolaborasi dengan Dada Fest untuk menggali apa arti kesenian disabilitas dalam konteks UK dan Indonesia, dan bagaimana membuat kolaborator itu menjadi bermakna. Dan rekan saya sekaligus yang membantu sebagai interpreter hari ini adalah Mbak Rani, adalah salah satu project leader dari penelitian tersebut.
So in 2024, we received another grant from the British Council Connection to Culture program for a research project titled Prism. We are collaborating with Dada Fest UK to explore the meaning of disability arts in the context of UK and Indonesia and how we can make a meaningful collaboration projects. My colleague here, Rani, who is helping with the interpreter today, is the project leader and the researcher for this project.
Dan riset ini juga menegaskan bahwa aksesibilitas berarti membangun pengetahuan dari praktek-praktek yang ada yang bersumber dari pengalaman keseharian para seniman disabilitas.
So this research reinforces us that pursuing accessibility means building knowledge from existing practices, which stem from the daily experience of the disability artist.
Ya, buat kami arti kesenian disabilitas itu adalah identitas yang terikat dan kolektif. Ya, identitas, kebanggaan.
So for us, from that research, we realized that disability arts is like a collective identity, an identity and pride that is defined and built by the artists themselves as a counter to the various stereotypes imposed by others.
Dan ini di slide ini ada seniman disabilitas dari Jogja yang bernama Edi. Nih dia membuat salah satu karakter yang imajinatif, semacam avatar atau alter egonya. Lanjut.
So as you can see in the slide, this is artwork from Eddie, visual artist from JDA. An imaginative character he created, like an alter ego of himself. He said that this is the first collaboration that when he feel confident to reveal his identity as a disability artist in his artwork.
Ya, kalau Anda bertanya pada saya, kenapa saya begitu yakin memilih jalan kesenian? Saya ingin memberi penghargaan pada diri sendiri melalui seniman sebagai manusia.
If you ask me why I'm so sure to choose disability art as the path that I walk now, it is because I believe art or disability arts give the recognition to the dignity of the disabled artist as the human being.
Saya juga percaya pada kekuatan kolaboratif kesenian yang melibatkan banyak pihak dapat menjadi cara memupuk empati, keterhubungan dan solidaritas.
I also believe in the power of disability arts collaboration that involves many parties, not just the disabled artists. This can foster empathy, connection, and solidarity because collaboration unites us in the mutual and shared experience.
Ya, dengan menjadikan aksesibilitas sebagai pengalaman yang hendak kita tuju adalah untuk hidup bersama, khususnya dalam infrastruktur kesenian. Berarti kita melangkah bersama ke depan untuk mewujudkan ekosistem dari dunia yang sama.
So by making accessibility as a shared and lived experience by all of us, especially in art infrastructure, it means that we step forward together to create a world that is more inclusive, art ecosystem, and the world that we live in together.
Oke, terima kasih. Ini presentasi saya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Butong, for giving us that window into disability arts in Indonesia and how it can move forward. Finally, I would like to invite Claire to speak. Her presentation looks at the importance of reframing access, not just as something functional, as most of us tend to think of it, but deeply embedded within the art-making process. And she'll be sharing some examples from her work on an upcoming theatre work at Esplanade, Scenes from the Climate Era. Over to you, Claire.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Claire. I'm a visually impaired artist-educator, and I have tired eyes that are smiling at you right now, a not-so-sharp nose and thin pink lips. I have long dark hair that reaches my waist, and I'm wearing a black dress with white polka dots. My practice has always been about using performing and literary arts as a medium to connect and work with different communities, marginalized and disabled. And I hope to share with you some insights I've gained from the barriers I faced as a disabled artist, hoping to bridge the gap with the mainstream art scene and how we can approach access as a creative and collective endeavor. Next. So for a long time, people treated accessibility as a checkbox exercise, something for us to hit our KPIs or generate feel-good optics. And it became incredibly tokenistic. But I think we are shifting our perspectives to see access as an agent for creativity and innovation. If we can embed access in our art or see accessibility as an art form, then we can unlock new creative potential and possibilities. It also builds empathy and community. It brings people together. If we can consider diverse needs, we tell stories that speak to more people and generate more important conversations within the audience about access. In short, it strengthens our artistic impact and touches our audience in deeper ways. Next. So there's a huge difference between providing access as a functional add-on and making it a core aesthetic. I summarized it in this comparison table. So functional access tends to be factual, cold, and often exclusive, serving the primary function of making arts available to the disabled community. Aesthetics of access also aims to serve the primary function, but adding layers of sensory experience and conceptual understanding for a collective appreciation of the work. Next. So let's talk about audio description. It is crucial for visually impaired audiences to receive verbal feedback about, so we don't miss key visual elements in the production. It is traditionally fed through earphones and only for blind patrons. So let's do an experiment. I'm going to give you two types of audio description for the same movement. First, functional, and then aesthetic. And then you can tell me which you prefer. Okay? So, she scoops her hand down, bringing it up to chest level and out to the right. So that was number one. Number two, gently, she scoops her hand downward, as if picking up a honeyed rose and sharing it with all of you. Which did you prefer? There's no right or wrong answer, okay? There's no right or wrong answer. Because many people would say, oh, the first one, because it is factual. There's no honeyed rose on my hand, right? And then many people would say, oh, the second one, because it inspires more imagination. So, up to you, okay? Next. Over the years, my colleagues and I have been experimenting with what I like to call creative narration. Essentially, creative forms of audio description. We've been playing with different styles, and here are a few. So, character narration. The descriptions are delivered through a character's voice. It's as if we are seeing the entire world through one person's lens and their perspectives, their emotions, and their stakes in the world of the play. Sensorial narration is not just about what we see, but adding layers of what we hear, smell, taste, and touch. And it immerses the audience into the world. Embedded narration is about having description that is already embedded into the dialogue, the actor's dialogue, so there's no external voice that is coming in to cut through the lines, but it flows seamlessly. The other way of doing it is creating a soundscape that can paint a picture of the environment or the atmosphere in the story. Lastly, I have simplified narration. So this is about creating clear, minimalistic, and streamlined description that doesn't just serve the visually impaired community, but also the intellectually disabled and persons with cognitive disabilities. Okay, so this list is not a textbook. They are evolving experiments born from trial and error and a lot of refinements based on the feedback that was gathered. This is not the only way. But this is an invitation to you guys to co-create together, to decide for yourself what you like and don't like, what is good or bad, and have fun together. Because this is a very young field and we can shape it together. There's so much room to play and innovate. Next. Okay, accessibility isn't just about audio description, it is about creative captioning as well and so many other elements. Because Alice did go through a little bit, I'm going to go really fast here. So, if we see captioning as an art form, they can become visual poetry rather than just verbatim text. We can play with color, size, font, placement of text like on the furniture of the set, movement, and animation. This provides provocative and engaging visual cues for the deaf and enriches the experiences for everyone. Next. If we can embrace accessibility as part of art, we create a bridge between communities. It is no longer us and them. It becomes a shared endeavor. It also encourages co-creation and collaboration. Disabled, non-disabled artists, designers, and audience members work together, sharing ideas to solve problems. And the creative process becomes so much richer because it includes diverse perspectives. And yes, sometimes we debate and have differing opinions on how we can create access, but debates lead to innovation. We discuss, we disagree, we explore new possibilities, and come up with solutions that we never would have thought of on our own. It also dismantles ableism. It counters the old-fashioned idea that accommodations are special treatment. And the more normalized accessibility becomes, the less people see disability as less than. And equitable access becomes standard practice, which is how it should be. I would like to extend an invitation to any arts makers or social service practitioners who are interested in access to attend our Access 101 workshops hosted by Artist Singapore on the 28th of March. Then you can put many of these concepts and ideas to practice. Next. So what I've learned in my various positions is that one passionate person pushing for access is not enough. You need a community of believers. When a whole team values access, from leadership to interns, we can encourage each other and keep the momentum going. I often hear concerns like, oh, we love the idea, but we don't have enough budget or resources. And resource constraints are real. Money, time, expertise can be limited. But I've learned that perhaps it is more about a mindset shift rather than huge resources. We may not have huge, fancy equipment or a lot of resources, but we have creativity. We are artists, right? So what can we use that we already have to fill in the gaps? Example, we have no budget for professional AD. Then can the cast do it? Solutions emerge when you approach it like an art project. Inclusion thrives on a problem-solving mindset, and when people see that it is possible with what we have, the resource barrier starts to feel less daunting. It becomes about will and imagination. Next. So, case study. I want to tell you guys a breakthrough that I just had. I got cast in an Esplanade Studios production. And, okay, thank you. So, that's not the breakthrough, by the way. The breakthrough is my director met me way before rehearsal started, and she talked to me about my access needs. She discussed how she could support me in the process, and then she gave me time to train the entire cast and crew how to do sighted guiding and audio description. And we really embedded these practices into the process. She assigned a different cast member to accompany me as my access worker every day. At some point, I was even offered the choice of bringing in a dedicated person to be my creative enabler in the space. But I chose to build shared capacity instead, because I've always believed that fostering a culture where accessibility skills belong to everyone. It is not just for specialists. After all, providing access shouldn't be isolating or exclusive. Next. When I first started out, I often felt like I was a burden. I needed accommodations. I needed people to adjust how they did things for me. And I really hated that feeling. But I realized speaking up meant I could do better work, because I was given the tools to succeed. And I wasn't just speaking for myself, but all the other disabled people who were facing similar challenges. I urge disabled artists to keep upskilling, to keep your mentors close, to keep making good work, and allowing your work to speak for you. Because one day, when you start to believe you deserve all the provisions that people are offering you, and you ask for them without shame and without guilt, the gatekeepers will start believing in you too. And policies will follow practice and systems will start to evolve. Next. Okay, so a while back, I got the opportunity to visit a small tea museum in Taiwan. It wasn't a famous high-tech museum at all. It was this off-the-beaten path museum that not many people go to. So I entered the space with my white cane, and no one blinked an eye at me. They just came very, very welcoming, and they gave me a tour. They were ready. They were ready to offer assistance. And we came to this wall with pictures depicting the tea cakes and the snacks that the emperor used to eat. And she brought out this range of tactile objects. And it was all made of recycled materials. There were so many things on the table, and I started touching it. It was so intricate. There were different textures, different colors, different sizes and shapes. And then there was this coconut cake. Okay, so it was made of a light ceramic, spray painted green. And guess what the coconut shavings were made of? Eraser dust. Amazing, right? I was like, wow, it must be some expert that made this. So I asked, okay, who made this? And then the museum staff told me, oh, I did. I made it. And then this kueh was made by that cleaner. And this one was made by that receptionist. You see what can happen when everyone puts their mind together? They had a mission. They wanted to bring this experience to a wider audience. And they started with only two things. One, a giving heart, and two, a creative mind. They didn't have money, but they wanted to do it. And then I asked them, so how many people, how many disabled artists actually, not just artists, sorry, how many visually impaired audiences came to the museum since it opened 5 months ago? 2, she said. And so I asked her, is it worth it? And she said, of course, because every experience matters. So I ask you guys, and I ask myself, when will we start valuing every single life, every single experience, more than the numbers that we have? Next slide. I want to conclude with a quote. Access can be an individual's burden or a collective opportunity. We each have a choice on how we want to view accessibility. If we see it as just one person's burden, like we push all the responsibility to a disabled person or access coordinator, then we all will miss out. But if we see it as a collective opportunity, something that we can all contribute to, it becomes a source of connection and innovation. Let's go forward and create art that opens doors for everyone. Together, we can transform barriers into breakthroughs and isolation into connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for the powerful insights into the kind of behind-the-scenes processes and mindset shifts that can really embed access into not just the making, but also the experiencing of art. So we're now into the Q&A segment, and thank you all for some of the questions that have already popped up on Mentimeter. There's also an invitation to the floor. If you'd like to ask your questions in person, raise your hand and the mic will come to you. Introduce yourself and give a visual description of yourself too. I'll start the ball rolling by asking a question first. I think all the presentations have been really inspiring, and they've also challenged me in many ways to rethink my notions of accessibility. I wanted to ask each of you, each of the speakers, from your own lived experiences as artists, what is the change that you would most like to see in your respective societies? Any one of you can.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Budi, we gonna go first? Yeah. Gentleman first.
Saya ingin melihat perubahan dari mindset dulu, mindset masyarakat. Itu karena saya setuju dengan Clarissa bahwa bilang mindset itu penting. Karena sebagai contoh, saya bisa berkomunikasi dengan ini. Saya dengan tangan satu, tapi saya bisa berkomunikasi. Jadi sebenarnya itu tidak ada masalah. Kalau ketika mindset kita memang sudah bisa nyambung untuk berkomunikasi atau itu akses.
So the first thing I want to see the change in the society is about the mindset. So I really agree with Claire just presented. For example, this morning when I first met Alice, you see I only have one hand, but then I try to make a gesture, and she understand that I am trying to make a communication with her. So there is no, it's about your mindset. If you really want to go and do something about it, then we can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think I covered a little bit from my presentation,
Yes.
but what I really want to see what I want to see change in our society is for us to stop valuing efficiency and effectiveness and productivity and all these things more than a personal experience. The personal experience of things, because that experience in the Tea Museum was literally the best I've ever had in any arts establishment, because I felt the connection and I felt what humanity meant. And you see, even though it was just two of us that experienced the work, I took that experience and I'm sharing it with however many people there are here today. And when I came back from Taiwan, I shared it with every single person I met who asked me, hey, how was your holiday? So, practices spread like this. And I think an individual, let's not trivialize a person's experience.
Thank you. Yes, those are the KPIs that we live with in Singapore, which is basically, how we're always measuring things according to quantitative metrics and numbers. When, like what Claire says, really, for accessibility, you want to center the lived experience at the heart of it, and that should be something that we can work on to center more in our society. Alice, what about you in your society? What would you most like to see change?
Yes, so I really thought that the first, the tagline, nothing about us without us. So it's about what is accessibility to us we really need is to be included. Yes, and we can actually change the society, but what kind of change that we want is that we think that the perspective has to be changed, the mindset has to be changed. And it's about how we can come together to work together, for the deaf and the hearing to work together to experience each other's ability, and also to look at the kind of impact and the experiences that we can give to each other. So this itself is actually my lived experience, to influence, to impact, and to actually share what I've learned, to actually empower, and hopefully we can influence everybody together to do things together under the same teamwork.
Thank you. Okay, there's some really good questions on the Mentimeter. I think that there's one which in particular those of the speakers of the panel who have worked in cross-cultural contexts, I think it would be quite interesting to hear your answer. So the question is, often it seems that we take reference from Western perspectives of accessibility, which may be seen as superior. But what is the unique proposition and value of the Asian practice of accessibility, you think, from your experience and your cultural context?
Ya. Aku Clarissa. Aku aja. Aku aja.
Okay.
Oke.
Butong.
Kalau menurut saya itu yang unik dari Asia adalah bagaimana orang-orang di sekitarnya itu yang justru bisa memberikan akses. Sebagai contoh kami di Indonesia, infrastruktur mungkin memang belum akses, namun orang-orang di sekitar itu mempunyai empati yang lebih untuk mensupport, mendukung kegiatan-kegiatan. Dan saya melihat di ASEAN terutama, nilai-nilai itu masih tetap ada, dan nilai-nilai itu yang berbeda dengan yang ada di barat sana.
I think from my experience, what is different in Asia is that we have a very nurturing support system. For example, in Indonesia, if we talk about infrastructure, particularly like art infrastructure, it's still, there's still so many gaps. But what I experienced because of the support system, they have a lot of empathy, a lot of nurturing aspect that actually is already part of our culture. So that what really helps us strive. So I think in terms of our cultural values, that's the a very basic different thing between Asia and Western aspect of accessibility.
Dan sebagai contohnya, waktu kami bekerja sama mural dengan seniman disabilitas yang ada dari UK, itu mereka mengatakan sendiri bahwa ada nilai lain di Indonesia, terutama khususnya Asia, karena mungkin mereka merasa ngewongke manusia sebagai manusia ketika berada di proyek tersebut yang lagi dikerjakan di Indonesia, kira-kira gitu.
And this perspective is also gained during our collaboration project with artists from the UK. We did the mural together. They came to Indonesia and we also came to Wales. And we discussed about how it feels really different when we did the mural in Yogyakarta. A lot of people want to participate, to involve, and a lot of aspect of addressing, acknowledging what we're doing as a person and human being. Whereas the different experience in the UK, the experience is quite different.
Thank you.
Thank you. Claire or Alice, do you have any thoughts on this? Alice?
So when I lived in Europe for about 8 years, I really learned a lot. And what's important is that it is the identity and your roots in yourself, the sense of self. In Asia, we really missed out something, yes. So what we're really lacking is actually the identity in the Asia context is lacking compared to the Western. So in Asia we look at the beauty of the arts, the sign language, the beauty of the language. But there's still a lot of room for development and growth. Between the East and the West, there can still be a lot of collaboration. We can take what is good, and then we can actually exchange and learn from one another. So it's not necessary that the Western culture is of a higher value, but rather what you can learn, and then we can actually adopt it to the Asian context. So that is what is more important to me, is about the adaptation to the local context.
Thank you. So I think from this panel, I mean, one thing that has been very, very illuminating for me is that you can see, we have artists with different access needs, with very diverse access needs, right? So there's a question for all three speakers. How do you address the challenges of ensuring that your art is accessible to all disability groups? Is there a universal design approach? So universal design was mentioned in the first panel, right? Is there this universal design approach to creating art which can be accessed by everyone? Yes, of course.
Okay, so I don't know, but from the projects that I've done, I think I've let go of being able to to create fully accessible art? Because I don't think there's such a thing. Because I can do a checkbox exercise on this, right? I create an installation, it has audio description, it has creative captioning, it has easy read guides for intellectually disabled. But then one blind and deaf audience come, and then how? You know, do I have a tactile experience? Maybe not. And then how about what if it is a child? What if it is a child with intellectual disability and is blind? There are so many different contexts. There are so many different types of audiences that we can come, and it's so difficult to prepare for all. All I can say is we will keep trying. We will keep trying to provide more and more access. If we have the time, if we have the logistics, we will keep doing our best. But whether there is a universal design for performance is a different thing. I don't think there is, but yeah.
Any thoughts from Putong or Alice?
Oke. Oke, kalau saya sejauh ini memang belum pernah mendapatkan yang bisa mengakses untuk semua, karena biasanya itu menyesuaikan dari kebutuhan audiens ya. Misalnya kami mengadakan satu pameran gitu kan, kami memang menyediakan ada juru bahasa isyarat dan teman-teman disabilitas netra yang mau menonton karya 2 dimensi misalnya gitu. Nah kami memberikan pendampingan untuk menceritakan dari karya tersebut, karena sebenarnya kami ingin berbagi tentang apa sih yang diceritakan oleh si seniman ini dari karyanya, dan itu bisa menjadi pengalaman yang baru bagi teman disabilitas netra. Tapi sejauh ini memang belum ada, namun saya yakin suatu saat akan ada gitu kan. Karena apa? Melihat dari saat ini banyak semua akses itu udah mulai menuju ke arah yang lebih baik.
So far, I have never worked on a project that, like the question inquire, like work universally to all kind of disabilities, because basically in JDA we work based on the audience need. For example, when we do exhibition. We have like invitation from the blind communities, blind artist community or blind people communities, and then we provide like a guiding tour for them. Maybe not necessarily to really understand, have like the perfect capture of the art itself, but by helping them to listen to the story, what the artist want to tell, we want to create an experience where they feel like they are included, they are part, really taken consideration as the part of the exhibition themselves. So this is what we're trying to do so far. But in terms of like a design or art product that really goes along type of disabilities, we believe in the future there will be, because for example, like we have today, so I really believe that this is something that we could achieve together.
How about Alice? What is your experience based on your projects? So how do we provide access for the various needs? We can actually through awareness workshop. How do we have develop accessibility together with the end users? And also, we want to encourage disabled people to actually to move forward, to lead, to be the person to lead the accessibility needs, because they will actually know how and what their needs are, and this is how the change can come about.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'm sorry, there are quite a number of great questions on the Mentimeter, but I mean, after this, there's lunch and it's an opportunity to mingle, and you can come and talk to the speakers and ask your questions. It's been a great panel. I've learned a lot. I think that we speak a lot about bringing artists with disabilities to the table, but I think real change starts when we rethink the table itself. You know, the height, the parameters, how wide is it, how inclusive it is. And I think this panel has shown us that all these kind of simple mindset changes are necessary and need not involve earth-shattering resources, but it really starts from all these changes in approaching how we think of one another and how we can build bridges between persons with and without disabilities. So will you join me in thanking our 3 speakers? Thank you so much.